The spooky tale of love is wicked. In the heart of Africa, in a moonlit town, the shadows whisper a story of love without joy and beauty without charity. This is the tale of Jessica, who learned the hard way that love is wicked. Jessica was as beautiful as a blooming flower and as kind as a gentle breeze. But Adiz had a secret. She knew a tale so spooky that it sent shivers down the spines of all who heard it. It was a moonlit night when Jessica first heard the eerie whispers in the wind. She was sitting by the fire, roasting corn, when an old woman approached her. The old woman's eyes gleamed in the firelight as she began to tell the tale. "Love is wicked," she croaked, her voice as dry as the desert sands. "It will lure you in with promises of joy and happiness and leave you cold and alone." Jessica listened intently as the old woman spun her tale. She spoke of a young couple deeply in love, like Jessica and her sweetheart Kofi. Their love was cursed and tainted by jealousy and betrayal. And in the end, it led to tragedy. As the old woman finished her story, a chill settled over the village. Jessica's heart raced with fear, but she brushed it off as nothing more than an old wife's tale. But the whispers lingered in her mind, haunting her dreams and filling her with doubt. She couldn't shake the feeling that something wicked was lurking beyond the shadows. Days turned into weeks, and Jessica's unease grew stronger with each passing moment. She tried to push her fears aside and focus on her love for Kofi, but the old woman's words continued to echo in her mind. Then, one fateful night, Jessica's worst fears were realized. She stumbled upon Kofi in the arms of another woman, a woman with eyes as dark as midnight and a smile as sharp as a dagger. Heartbroken and betrayed, Jessica fled into the night, the echoes of the old woman's warning ringing in her ears. She knew now that love was wicked and vowed never to trust it again. And so, the tale of love is wicked lived on in the village, a reminder to all who dared to love of the dangers that lurked in the shadows. Years passed, and Jessica's heart remained closed off to love. She focused instead on her work and her family, finding solace in the simplicity of her life. But deep down, she still carried the scars of her past, a constant reminder of the darkness that lurked just beyond the surface. Then, one day, a stranger arrived in the village, a handsome young man with eyes as warm as the sun and a smile that lit up the darkest corners of Jessica's heart. His name was Malik, and the moment he set foot in the village, Jessica felt drawn to him in a way she couldn't explain. But try as she might, Jessica couldn't shake the feeling of unease that gnawed at her insides. She tried to push it aside, to convince herself that this time would be different, but the memory of Kofi's betrayal loomed large in her mind. Still, Malik persisted, showering Jessica with kindness and affection. He spoke of a love that was pure and true, a love that could withstand any trial or tribulation. Slowly but surely, Adoma found herself beginning to believe. But just as their love began to blossom, tragedy struck once again. Malik fell ill with a mysterious illness. His body was racked with pain and fever. Jessica watched helplessly as the man she loved grew weaker with each passing day, her heart breaking anew with every labored breath he took. Desperate for answers, Jessica sought out the village healer, hoping against hope that he could cure Malik of his affliction. But when she arrived at his hut, she found it empty. The healer was nowhere to be found. Frantic, Jessica searched the village high and low, but there was no sign of the healer or clue as to where he might have gone. And as Malik's condition continued to deteriorate, Jessica felt her world crumbling around her once again. In her darkest hour, Jessica turned to the old woman who had first warned her of the dangers of love. She found her sitting by the fire, her eyes filled with sadness as she listened to Jessica's tale. "Love is wicked," the old woman murmured, her voice barely more than a whisper. "It will take everything from you, leaving nothing but pain and sorrow in its wake." But Adiz refused to give up hope. She begged the old woman for help, pleading with her to use her magic to save Malik's life. And though the old woman warned her of the consequences, Jessica was willing to do whatever it took to save the man she loved. With a heavy heart, the old woman agreed, performing a powerful ritual that she claimed would heal Malik's body and soul. But as the flames danced and the incense filled the air, Jessica couldn't shake off the feeling of dread that settled over her like a dark cloud. And when the ritual was complete, Malik's eyes fluttered open, his fever was broken, and his strength returned. Jessica breathed a sigh of relief, believing their ordeal was finally over. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks turned into months, Jessica began to notice a change in Malik. He grew distant and cold, his once warm smile replaced by a twisted sneer. And then, one night, Jessica woke to find Malik standing over her, his eyes filled with malice as he raised a knife high above his head. With a scream, she leaped from her bed, narrowly avoiding the blade as it sliced through the air. Heart-pounding, Jessica fled into the night, the echoes of the old woman's warning ringing in her ears. She knew now that love was wicked, a more powerful force, and more dangerous than she could ever have imagined. And so Jessica wandered the earth alone, her heart closed off to love forever. She had learned her lesson the hard way. Sometimes the most beautiful flowers hide the deadliest thorns. The tale of love is wicked lived on in the village, a cautionary tale for all who dared to love in a world filled with darkness and deceit.